I think we haven't had a expansionist president in our lifetime. America has played scared. Let's just face it. We've been isolationist. We've been involved in a lot of coups and, hey, let's do some proxy here. Let's do some proxy there. Why don't we think about making America bigger? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, wait a minute, this whole number. I've seen all the reports. Only 4% of people support the fact that if we use military to take over Greenland, I don't think we need to use military. We bought Louisiana for $15 million, big move. We bought Florida for $5 million, big move. We had Texas, who was its own sovereign country from 1836.
Patrick Bet-David talks about Trump's expansion of America and ICE agents' deportations on Piers Morgan Uncensored, discussing how Obama deported 3 million people and didn't have any problems with the media. The PBD podcast host drops truth bombs on the double standards of modern media and how people are swept away by emotional arguments.
So guess what? Texas became part of America. We bought Alaska for $7.2 million. They called it the dumbest deal ever until we found gold and oil. The only one that was a war was with Mexico, which we got California, Arizona, all these other places. I think this mindset of being an expansionist that we haven't had for all these years, and he's thinking long term of, hey, we need to protect ourselves of what China is doing. I like that. The Donroe doctrine of protecting the Western Hemisphere, I like that. I don't like the fact that a company called Hutchinson owns the control the 40-something ports and they own control of Panama Canal. What if the next COVID happens and all of a sudden China says we're shutting down Panama Canal, products are not coming in? What happens to our lives? Dramatically changes. So I like the fact that we're trying to get a Greenland to protect ourselves with minerals. Today or yesterday, he was talking about the fact that we need this to build a dome that's going to cost us some $175 billion, the old project that Reagan talked about. I like that he's playing offense. And by the way, I understand why Americans are not used to this. I understand why Americans are not used to a president that's selling the vision of the future. We haven't had a president like this. It should be uncomfortable. It should be disturbing. But I love that he's sequencing thinking about America long term instead of just thinking America for the next year, 2 years, 3 years to get reelected.
As somebody who came to the United States as an immigrant yourself, are you getting concerned about what's happening with ICE? And the reason I say that is not just the incident with Rene Good, who was killed by an ICE officer in that highly disputed incident. It's more that the polling about ICE agents now is extremely bad. And it plays, I think you and I discussed this when I came on your show, which is that when it comes to immigration, Trump's done an amazing job in sealing the southern border. That is unarguable. Most people agree with it. Most Americans agree with it. I think most Americans agree with undocumented people in America who commit crimes that are not linked to their status. They should be deported. Everyone agrees with that. The hot flashpoint is what happens to people who've come in undocumented, either on their own or perhaps as children of people who come in undocumented, and that actually they're being removed or they're being targeted after 10 years in the United States of living and working and contributing and paying taxes, having children, and so on. And that the imagery of these ICE agents with their masks, which the police don't have, going around into cities and towns, grabbing people like that, is actually very un-American. Just quickly, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, Abby, who works at CNN the other day, said the most interesting thing. She said, I don't remember any of these issues when Obama deported 3 million people.
Right.
Why was it that we didn't have these kinds of issues under Obama and we're having it today? I don't know if you saw this or not. She says that. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yeah, the reason why Obama didn't get the criticism that he get, because you guys didn't cover it.
Yes.
Nobody was talking about it.
100%.
CNN wasn't covering it. It was like, oh, he's doing a great job. It's an okay job. He's making sure America's safer. And there's a clip of Barack Obama saying, if you came here illegally, you need to get back to the end of the line. Who's he talking about? The people that did this legally get to the front of the line. You get to the back of the line. Have you ever stood in line in a place that's going to take an hour to get something and somebody cuts you? What feeling do you get in your belly? Don't you just kind of feel like, what the hell are you doing? Get back to the end of the line. I've been waiting here for 40 minutes. We applied for a green card in 1984 in Iran. My mother was done with me living in Iran, with us living in Iran, and she told my dad, we got to get out of here. We didn't get here till November 28, 1990, but we came here legally. A lot of people are trying to get ahead of the line. So I understand that argument of folks who are today not really talking about it in a positive way, but under Obama, oh, he was phenomenal the way he did it. There's nobody under Obama that worked for ICE that deported 3 million that did it this way. Piers, can you role play this? Like, think about I'm an ICE agent under Obama. And I come to your house and I say, hey, Piers, you're here illegally. I need you and your family to pack yourself up and go back to Mexico. And you say, oh my God, because you're an ICE agent under Obama, thank you for being so kind and respectful when you're asking me to go back to Iran. I will listen to you kindly. Would you like to arrest me? Here, take my hands and handcuff me. What a noble group of people you guys are. No, it was nasty. But this thing called camera wasn't there, and it is there today. And it's very nasty. It's not an easy job. And I knew this was going to take place. And I knew the media was going to use this to turn against him because they're going to get so much content. And the average person who's watching it on TV, who has a heart, who's empathetic, who's sympathetic, is sitting there saying, I feel bad for this family. It is so difficult to watch this as a logical player. It is so easy for us to fall for this as an emotional player, which all of us are. Who the hell wants to see kids being separated from their parents? Nobody does. But there's laws, and they're trying to protect the laws.
PBD said some things that the mainstream media does not want you to hear. We haven't had an expansionist president in our lifetime. For decades, America has played scared. We do proxy wars here and there, but we don't actually think about making America bigger and stronger for the long term. Greenland has minerals we need. It's strategically important. It helps us build the missile defense dome that Reagan dreamed about. It protects us from China. Piers Morgan brings up how the images of ICE agents with masks going into communities and grabbing people looks bad. Obama deported 3 million people, and the media said nothing. There were no 24/7 news segments about ICE being evil. There were no protests. There was no outrage. Obama was called the deporter-in-chief, and everyone was cool with it. But now Trump does deportations, and suddenly it's the worst thing ever. The only difference is that cameras are everywhere now. Social media is everywhere, and the media has an agenda to make Trump look bad no matter what. The media would use every single clip of a family being separated to turn people against Trump, because those images are emotional. They're heart-wrenching. Nobody wants to see kids being separated from their parents. PBD uses a perfect analogy. He asks Piers to imagine standing in line for an hour waiting for something, and then someone just cuts in front of you. That's exactly what's happening with illegal immigration. People who came here legally, like PBD's own family, did it the right way. They waited. They followed the rules. And then you have people just cutting the line and expecting to stay?
Because while all these people are talking about what they're talking about, you know what happens if another 9/11 happens in the next 6, 12 months, 24 months, and they realize the person that conducted the next 9/11 is a guy that came through the border, the 12, 15, 20 million people that came under Biden, and 4,000 or 5,000 people die? Imagine somebody does that at a big football game. Imagine one of the World Cup games here, an idiot who came here illegally disrupts a World Cup game, and we have to shut down the 2026 World Cup, and it's done. Every game is shut down. Imagine that. Then what are people going to say? Oh, then all of a sudden you're going to get to Trump? See, this is the thing about tough leadership that's not easy to understand when the tough leadership has to execute the tough decisions. The one part I will tell you, Piers, that I think that the one thing we have to realize is when you vote for somebody, I'm voting for President Trump's instinct and the way he processes issues and gets information from everybody. I'm not expecting 100% decision-making process. No leader makes 100% of the right decisions. You want to be in the 60, 70% range, and you're going to screw it up 20, 30% of the time. There's never been a leader that made 100% the right decision. But here's what he does. If you look at the way he does things, Bill Pulte, who runs FHA and Fannie Mae, who we had on the show about a couple weeks ago, he came out and said something. He says, well, we're thinking about introducing a 50-year loan for mortgages to deal with affordability. And everyone's like, wait a minute, 50-year loan? Yes, we're thinking about a 50-year loan. This was a couple months ago. You know what he just announced this week? That 50-year loan idea is out. We're not going to do it. It's not going to work. All right, great. So they're watching, because if all of a sudden you get rid of people that have been here since they were 10 years old, they're working certain jobs, and farmers are coming back and saying, hey, I'm a guy that voted for you and you're impacting my business. President Trump, please listen. We need some of these guys, or whatever these people are that are leveraging it or need that help. President Trump and his team's going to sit there and say, look, if it's going to impact the economy, if it's going to impact us here directly here, and these are good citizens, let's figure out a way to make it work. So I think we are in the nasty phase right now. I think we're in the sausage-making phase right now, and the media is going to use every one of these clips to get people emotional. The question is, why isn't the media covering what's going on with Iran? Why is the media so upset? Why isn't the media covering what was going on with Nigeria? Why isn't the media talking? But they'll show anything and everything that matches their own propaganda that they have in place. So as a player that wants to get the information and be as reasonable, as logical as possible, I think we have to tap into that, as difficult as it will be when we watch these heart-wrenching videos of families being separated.
Patrick Bet David is really good at this type of rant about geopolitics, and I don't know if he was prepared for this, but he really just started spitting out numbers. And the reason why nobody criticized Obama for deporting illegals is because the media is with the Democrats in most cases. Why would they criticize Obama? But when Trump is doing the deportation, all of a sudden, all the media is going to talk about this. Everybody's going to get emotional about this, and everybody's going to blame Trump and his fascist government. It doesn't matter if you came to seek a better life or anything like that. If you came to a place illegally, undocumented, and you've been staying in this country for 20, 10, or even 1 year, it's still illegal. There are laws, and we have to abide by the laws. If you don't abide by the laws, you're going to get crazy things happening in your country. At the end of the day, there's a goal. There's an agenda, and the agenda is to portray multiculturalism as something that is successful and is booming. Like and subscribe.